There he is.
What's up, dude? Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. Man, it's super easy for me to hook this microphone up for my audio. But man, these Zoom recordings, honestly, I'm pretty happy with them so far.
Okay. Let me get my shit situated here.
Hey, dude, did you make that headboard?
Yeah, I made that headboard.
Nice.
Did you, yeah, I made that headboard. I've made a couple other things. I forgot to send you pictures the other day. Hang on. There we go. Shit.
Dude, I actually like this doing podcasts like out of the norm, you know, like I like having the studio table, but like Nate, when he did the podcast, he was on his longboard.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I just shared it and people were like losing it about him being up. But man, this is kind of cool for me to, hey, I drink that same kind of kombucha. Gingerade.
Gingerade.
It's tasty.
It's tasty. It definitely says on the front probiotics. The other ones I don't trust to have probiotics in them.
Yeah. Which the other ones of that same brand or?
Yeah.
Really? Man, the one that there's one that comes in the pack. Corey and I get the box with gingerberry and I think it's called Trilogy. Dude, that one's wild.
I've not tried that one yet.
Yeah.
I've tried the berry one and something else. Man, during Aunt Rona being in town, I do my best to have some probiotics, dude.
Yeah, I take a probiotic every morning, man. There's just one I've been getting for a couple years now. I used it when I was getting over that autoimmune issue, and then I stopped. But I take it every morning now. So
really, what is it?
Oh, I forget. It has a crazy amount of cultures. It's a vegetable probiotic, vegetable based, and I keep it in the fridge. It suggests that you refrigerate it. So, but Corey and I both take one. I started getting it from the health food store here in town. And then I just started ordering it online because I think they went out of business.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm taking a mad amount of supplements right now.
Yeah, elderberry for us, but then
really,
yeah, flaxseed and fish oil, garlic. What else am I taking? Super B complex. Seems like there's one other thing I'm taking, but vitamin C. I'm just drinking vitamin C every day.
Okay.
What are you taking?
Let's see. I take fish oil, and then I take that NMN. Actually, I don't take NMN right now. I'm taking NR.
What is that?
That Dr. David Sinclair that was on Joe Rogan's podcast, the longevity.
Oh, yeah. You told me about that, and I looked into it. Yeah.
So I'm taking that. I'm taking resveratrol. And then let's see, I'm taking a zinc because it's an immune booster, but it's also a testosterone supporter because this week I'll be 44, brother.
Dang, bro. April 12th. Happy B-Day.
I know, right?
What is it, the 9th right now? Yeah.
Yeah, 3 days. I'll be 44.
Dude, that blows my mind. It didn't blow my mind when you turned 40.
Well, you know, I act like I'm 24 years old, so it's fine.
Yeah, you really, your personality probably has gotten less older.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to live that best life, man. Nature, I'm trying to do everything in nature. Nature's been real therapeutic, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I'm going to go out again this weekend. Probably gonna go fishing again with my dad.
We're doing the same thing on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm trying to plan. Like, I did a whole lot of work today because with what I'm going to record today and upload for my classes I'm teaching online, and what I'm going to do tomorrow morning, I should be able to just like have the next several days free if I want to go canoeing, which I do. Actually, I'm going to get myself a kayak, and then Cora and I'll both have one. But man, we could go I want to just go hit the lake over here, just paddle around the lake by the house. And then we're going to hit Horsehead and Spadra. And I would also like to, and the Buffalo's closed. Man, I'm so jealous that you hit Ponca the other day.
Dude, the water was right. The temperature was right, dude. We hit Ponca and it was great. That one section they call, what do they call that? Hell's Alley or whatever that is, right there at the end, close to the end of going into Kyle's Landing. You know, has those sometimes 3 foot, sometimes 4 foot rollback waves. I've got GoPro video of it. I'll have to send it to you, man.
Nice.
The whole front of my boat water just went over it as I went into it. It was pretty cool.
Have you thought about starting, or do you guys have a YouTube channel for your adventures?
No, Allie and I had talked about it just because so many people reach out to us about things that we do and see. I mean,
dude, that one video that you're talking about could be the first video you put on there.
That's true. And you know, we hiked and climbed Sky Pond in Colorado last year, which is a big deal. You know, talking 11,000 feet.
Hey, I was just reading about Zebulon Pike.
Where's that at?
Pike. It's the guy that named Pikes Peak, or that Pikes Peak is named after, right? Didn't you guys go to Pikes Peak, but didn't?
No, we did. We went Garden of the Gods. We didn't go to Pikes Peak.
Okay.
But I mean, we saw. You know how you can see Pikes Peak from Garden of the Gods.
Yeah, I went to Garden of the Gods. It's been, man, that's probably been 5 years ago now.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's overrated, but you're talking about a paved trail versus literally being out in nature in the Rocky Mountain National Park, which is crazy.
Yeah. So what are some things that you're going to do? What are some other outings that you're going to do?
So this weekend, we're going to do our best social distancing by getting on the private waterways of Little Sugar River up here, which has great fishing. Dude, if you're ever into fishing out of the kayak and canoe, you and Corey need to come up here with us. You're talking like you're ripping 15 to 18 inch smallmouth out all the time. Not all the time, but you know, you're going to catch a bunch of 10s and 12s, and then all of a sudden you're going to hook a big one. And it's fun. It's not like when we took you to the Kings, the fishing's okay, you know, but there's less pressure on this, and you don't see anybody, and it's just as beautiful. Right. And you know, it's not, you know, there's not any rapids to, you know, I mean, it's a fishing adventure. That's what it is. But you're talking.
I think Horsehead is going to be that way. Anytime I've ever floated Horsehead or really Spad or either one, I've never seen anybody out there.
Yep, same with me.
So I don't know if we'll fish when we do either of those. We'll see what the water's like. Spadder can get a little crazy, dude. Have you ever canoed or floated Spadder?
Never done Spadder, man.
We're going to put in like right there at the 1-lane bridge out past on the other side of Ludwig by Billway. We'll put in there and we'll float to like the take out there at the interstate. You can.
Okay.
There's like right
there behind Old Wendy's.
Yep. Just down there a little bit from that. So, but that's one thing I want to do, and I want to go. So that's Ludwig to almost to the Arkansas River, and then I want to go Horsehead Creek to Highway 64, which I thought was almost to the Arkansas River, but the way it winds, man, it's a lot of miles.
Probably another 3 miles or 4.
Oh yeah, if my memory serves me correctly, it comes out there actually close to the Scranton Bridge.
Oh, that's going to be 10 miles.
Yeah, it winds a lot. I thought it would just hook up there.
Right there
with the levee. So yeah.
We're going to do that. Then let's see, another we were going to try to do, and we're still going to try to do it, all 86 floatable miles of the Kings River this year, put in the upper section, and do float camp floats all the way to the end to the last takeout. We did several of those. We did 65 miles of that section last year. We just didn't do the last, 12, 15 miles of it.
You did it all in one sprint?
No. First time we did 11 miles in one day. The second time we did 17 miles in a day. That 17-mile stretch, you really the water's got to be flowing right. It's got to be moving, because to do 17 miles in a day without just sitting there just paddling, is kind of hard, especially when you're still trying to catch fish too, and drink beer, all the other fun stuff.
It's I believe it's 12 from Horsehead Lake to where to the Hartman Bridge in the park there on 64. So that was kind of the route I was wanting to take.
You're not gonna fish that very much anyway. So
once I get on my family's land, I might, and we might even take out there. I don't know. But well, man, how have you been managing your time during all of this?
The biggest thing is wake up in the morning. Allie and I go run. We try to put in a couple of miles every day. And then after that, it's work on gym things, memberships, and trying to communicate with as many people as I can. Just checking on them. I'm not necessarily talking about martial arts or anything like that. I just want to make sure that everybody out there's doing good. I had a good conversation today with one of my guys. He called me. He's ready to step it up and take it to the next level. This little bit of break that we've had is really giving him some perspective on what's important. But, he used to be a college soccer player, still in great shape. He just, he's needing a little bit more competitive and goal-oriented purpose instead of just showing up for class,
He's a jiu-jitsu guy?
He's both. He's mainly a kickboxer. He just started gi.
And you said he played soccer?
Yeah, I played college soccer.
Ooh, nice.
Pretty athletic.
I bet he's got a good leg kick.
He does actually have a pretty good leg kick. And he's not a super big guy. He's probably 170. So, still very, very fit.
Man, I saw this video yesterday of a guy in Brazil that he was like a riot squad was out and he was getting arrested basically. But this guy, while he was like confronting this one person in front of him, came up behind him and just kicked his legs together like super hard and foot swept him. And it was one of the nastiest but it was a leg kick.
Right.
You just said soccer. I got to thinking of like Jose Aldo's leg kicks and playing soccer.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. Dude, remember that Uriah Faber fight?
Oh yeah. People underestimate leg kicks until you've been kicked in the quad where you're not expecting it. It's going to happen, but without a shin pad on, it feels devastating. You're talking. I remember Maurice Smith. He said way back in the day, he would rather fight MMA all day long than he would a kickboxing fight because it takes months to get over a hard kickboxing fight.
Yeah. I remember you told me that years ago.
Yeah.
And it's true because the distribution of the damage could be much more distributed. Yeah. It's much more spread out rather.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we've been managing our time that way, and then just filming content, things like that.
What have you been, man? I'm doing another jiu-jitsu solo movements Zoom tonight. Like I've talked to Nate about this a little bit, but I've been having good participation on the kickboxing workouts and the shadow boxing, but we'll see on tonight, but haven't been having as good of turnout. But there have been a couple of small groups, a couple of guys here and there going into the gym. But it's just been, the jiu-jitsu audience, it's been more difficult to engage with them. That's why I'm doing more things like this podcast and instructionals and stuff like that. I know you guys did that round table discussion with all the black belts. I thought about doing something like that with Cora. But have you been engaging with the jiu-jitsu folks?
I've been engaging with them that way. I've been just texting them one-on-one. Hey, is there anything that I can film or go over? I've got a couple of lists of things that I've talked to guys like, hey, they wanted to see this, they wanted to see that, answering some questions. But a big one that I was going to talk to you about was when I had that conversation with one of my guys earlier. He's always been very good on the fit side, but he's feeling a little lethargic a little bit, having to work. He's got one of these jobs that's now considered an essential job, and I mean it's a big boy corporate job, but it's in an essential business, and so he's working more hours than he has before, and he's feeling a little bit of atrophy. And when he gets up out of a chair, and he's like, oh man, because he's just not on the mats moving and stuff like that. So something that I'm thinking about putting out and starting to put together is just some HIIT workouts that I do personally that I feel like replicate jiu-jitsu cardio, because you and I both know you can't really replicate jiu-jitsu cardio without just sitting there rolling, or situational sparring or whatever you do,
Yeah.
But there's a few things, HIIT workouts that you can do that'll supplement, to combat muscle fatigue, to get that up and down heart rate, during that 5-minute time, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, put some of that out. The one thing I really love about all of this is seeing all the content everybody's putting out. Now, some people were always like Daniel O'Brien was always putting out badass content of like at-home workouts and stuff like that, or just instructionals, and he still is. But now everybody that is in the game is putting out awesome stuff. And it's nice to see, and I think that will be something that probably won't be scaled back in mass. Like people that were not doing it at all that are doing it now will probably keep doing it. That's my hope.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I think you and I talked a while back. There's been a precedent that's been set now that I don't think that we can come back from as far as content. There's been a lot of standards that it's just like, oh, hey, now this stuff is accessible, to where before it was a little bit, necessity is the mother of creation a lot of times. And this is something that's necessary as far as content and giving people things to do when they're isolated, because I don't feel like that this is going to be a one-time. 2020 is going to be the anomaly. I think that until the world gets a different perspective on what's happening as far as infectious diseases and things like that, I think this is going to be more common than we realize.
Well, and I think I told you on the phone the other day that like I have this friend who's a physicist. So she's a scientist by trade, and she worries that this is going to be a seasonal thing.
Me and Allie, my wife, we were talking about that. Literally, she's like, I think that this may, this time next year could happen again. If this, our economy can't take things like this, as far as the world economy anyways. Too many of what you would consider non-essential jobs just being shut down and just putting on pause. You can't, our system is not set up to be able to do that. So we're going to have to find a way to combat this a little bit better.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's one thing our businesses, the gyms were amongst the first wave of businesses to be forced to close.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been, like today, I went and a couple of the high belt guys, we rolled today. I got some bumps and bruises on my face and everything else. And, so we're still getting a little bit of stuff here and there, but, for your mass students, they just don't have access to that. And you're just going to have to keep pouring out that content, keep, coming up with creative ways where they feel like they're getting something out of being isolated right now.
Yeah. One thing, and I'm doing this with the Zoom podcast I'm doing, but we're gonna be starting tonight recording all of the Zoom workouts and classes we're doing with youth and teens and stuff, and putting them on our YouTube.
Yeah.
And I thought about this. I hadn't talked to Corey about it, but it's like, is that a service that we're going to start doing where it's like, oh, yeah, you missed class. Well, the video feed's over there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because we're capable, the ability's there to do it. Like I actually paid for Zoom at least until this blows over. And I mean, I may never go back from it because of the podcast,
Right.
but paid for the cloud storage, which is super convenient because I don't have to, man, I'm always having to delete video off of my computers because of the podcast. The video files just accumulate quickly.
Well, you know how you were talking about our adventure YouTube stuff. I actually have lots of GoPro video on this computer right here that I'm having to move it to an external hard drive just because I can't.
I got a couple of externals too, man. And then a couple laptops. My phone has 256 gigs on it. But what I may do is get a server at the gym and put all of my stuff on it and then dump everything it's either that or pay for cloud. But it's like, I want to get a storage that's so big I don't have to worry about it. And then also put my, our security footage on there from the gym.
I've got a big external hard drive that I bought off Amazon for like $50. It's like 2 terabytes.
Nice.
You know,
yeah.
You get a couple of those. You're talking, that's a lot of storage just right there. And you're only into it for $100.
Yeah. I'm going to do something like that when I get, situated, in the new studio, man. Did you see that video of the new studio?
It's sweet.
I'm excited. The floors are getting started. They're supposed to get started yesterday, but tomorrow.
Yeah. Is there only one entry, that one door right there?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I've got a couple. I had these 2 bookcases that were my grandpa's gun cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
I had them made into bookcases. They're going to go in there. My whiskey barrel table, a lot of the stuff from in here, but I'm excited, man. It's going to be like dream come true status on what I'm doing with it.
Yeah. So you sent me a couple of questions. One of them, I was actually thinking about this the other day, that it's so funny that you said it, what got me into martial arts. And me and you've had this conversation before, and I can tell you straight up what got me into martial arts, and that was movies. That was it, period. You know, my parents worked all the time, you know, so I was left at home a lot of times to my own devices. And, you know, that was VHS tapes and, you know, going to town on Friday nights. I don't know if you remember or not, but man, you remember the feeling of going to the video store and just
main video.
Hey, Sparks worked there, man.
I know, dude. That's awesome.
That's where I met him. You know, he would always recommend like, oh, dude, did you see that? You know, like a B-flick martial art movie or whatever. And I'd go check it out and rent it, you know, for the weekend and come back.
Do you remember the one down the hill from the old Inferno that was the tanning place?
Down the hill, yeah.
I think it was Joe's, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But we drove past that like just like 2 days ago, Corey and I.
Yeah, it was like a house at one point in time.
Yeah. I was like, that used to be a badass video store / tanning place.
And Main Video, you know, Main Video was right there beside Dairy Queen for a long time. You remember?
Yeah.
And, that was really cool. I don't know if you remember Main Video or not, but do you remember Home Video that was up on the hill, kind of like where Taco Bell is now?
Yeah.
Over there behind the bank. Well, Main Video and Home Video, the 2 cool things, when you would go in there, they had those little round tags that had like a number on it, and it hung on a nail that had the you know, the case sitting there of like, you know, when I was a kid, it was like Top Gun or whatever, you know. And you'd run in there and you'd look for that tag and it'd be sitting there hanging. And you'd grab it. You're like, yes. It's like winning the lottery, dude. And
disappointment when it was gone.
And the disappointment when it wasn't there. These, you know, kids nowadays, you know, teens and young adults nowadays, they don't get the thrill of understand. If you're 22 years old and younger, you don't get the thrill of the hunt at the video store, bro.
Like, I was thinking about this, and I think it was the same thing for like G.I. Joe's, but it's like, I never went shopping really outside of Clarksville when I was a kid. And now I'm collecting all of the 1990s Star Wars action figures, about halfway there. But I was like, Man, I never even had the option of buying this one when I was a kid. Like the
Oh,
Clarksville, Russellville Walmarts never stocked it.
dude, yeah.
Anytime I went to like the mall and Fort Smith or wherever, they didn't have it. So it was just like I never had the availability to get it, just like you would have to wait. But now there is no waiting. I just buy it
No,
whenever I want to watch, whatever action figure I want.
everything's so instantaneous then that you just don't get the thrill of the hunt. Dude, I know you were just like me, but like GI Joes or whatever at Walmart, you would just sift through piles, and you'd sit there and fan through the back till you're like, oh, no Snake Eyes, no Cobra Commander, no Destro. Oh man, who wants Flint? I've got 3 Flints. This is crap. Just and
Oh man.
Transformers and anything
Well,
else.
it was like they only ordered a select few.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I was thinking about that just earlier today, and it was pissing me off. I was like, man, I could just get whatever. Grandma Tarkin couldn't get him when I was a kid. Can get him now, no problem.
No, yeah. Good luck finding a Luke Skywalker when I was a kid, dude. That was unheard of. You'd have, you'd come to school and there'd be somebody with a Luke Skywalker. You just be like, man, where did he get a Luke Skywalker at? I want a Luke Skywalker.
I'll tell you, one of the ones that was rare when I was a kid was the speeder bikes.
Yeah,
from Endor.
Yeah, from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Dude, so did you see that inset shelf when you first go in the new studio space?
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to display all my action figures, bro.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't have any Star Wars ones to donate, but I have some G.I. Joe ones. I have some original 1980s first edition G.I. Joe.
See, I have some. I remember we both ordered some a few years ago.
I found them on Amazon probably 10 years ago, and I was like, check this out. Snake Eyes couldn't get it back when I was a kid. Got him now.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna recollect G.I. Joes as well. And that's what's cool about being an adult and things being super available and the internet. It's just like, well, eBay, they're all over the place.
Yeah, but unfortunately, nobody will have to go through what we had to go through. I mean, I can remember when a new Van Damme movie or something would come out, you'd have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks just to be able to find it in. And my mom would get so frustrated at me, dude, because I would be like, Mom, take me to this video store. No, take me to this video store. Because the big tradition, and Allie and I were just talking about this the other day, like a big part of childhood was when you were, junior high or before, not high school, but junior high or before, Friday night it was go to the video store and get 5 or 6 movies and, watch them all weekend and watch them 2 or 3 times and get, drive home with some pizza or.
Oh yeah. You remember late fees, bro?
Yeah. Late fees were another. I watched two dudes get into a fight in junior high over some late fees.
Oh, like one was supposed to take something back and he didn't.
One was supposed to take something back. He left it at his house. Like, yeah, dude, I'll take it back for you on Monday. Dude, they went to battle there in the junior high locker room of the basketball gym during PE. It was a not. Matter of fact, I don't think one of them smiled again right after that. And I thought, man, over some late fees. But apparently, it's one of those type of late fees. Like it was $65, and that dude's parents got called.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they could rack up fast.
Yeah,
for
could
sure.
have bought that movie 10 times over, for the late fees that they were having to pay.
Oh yeah. Well, what's like the culture has shifted so much. It's surprising to me that there's still red boxes.
True. Yeah. Netflix still does a DVD service, which I had no idea that they still did, but they do.
Yeah. Well, like for a friend of mine who's been on the podcast, Michael Booty, he lives out north of Dover, out around like Mr. Dean, there by Longpool.
Oh, yeah.
And he can't stream video out there. It'll eat his internet up. Then he won't be able to use it for anything else.
Yeah.
People, I think like that's something, one of the teachers on my floor was like, all students have a phone and internet. And I'm like, yeah, but they don't have a computer with a word processor, and blackboards are learning management systems content on the app. It's garbage. So we have this very real situation where people have internet on their phone, but they can't do it. They don't have access to a computer.
Right.
So it makes turning assignments, all these other things, super difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we're spoiled, dude. We're sitting here video streaming right now. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question, it was probably movies that got me into martial arts.
How long have you been training? Over like 20 years, right? Over 20 years.
I got my first real taste of what martial arts was on a professional level in 1994. So
when and where was that?
I took a good friend of mine, Sean, got me into martial arts. He had already, he was an adult. I was still in high school. He was driving, anywhere he could to take private lessons. So he'd drive to Tulsa, Oklahoma City, places like that. And that's where I met Mark McFan. Was in '94. I went to a seminar there at Terry Gibson's Jeet Kune Do school in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
That guy passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, brain cancer. Sad. Dude was a specimen. I mean, just phenom martial artist, specimen physically, just all around A++ guy. And he had fought brain cancer on and off for several years. They'd tried some, different type of therapy. They'd went to Mexico City, all kinds of things, he never, that last bout that he had with it, he succumbed to it. I remember a famous story. We were there taking a private lesson, and he had come back into the gym and apologized because he had went to the bathroom and thrown up. But he was talking about he had went out to the mailbox like the day before, checked the mail, and had a seizure. And then, like, instead of letting his body succumb to the seizure, he sucked it up and crawled back into the gym and then finished having the seizure. Like, that dude was a total badass, man. Just looked like something out of he built like a Greek statue. He was a great guy. But I remember in '94, I went and took a seminar there, and Mark McFan was there, and that was my first exposure to somebody that was teaching grappling on a professional level, and getting paid to teach and doing seminars and traveling around the world and getting influences. Because like I think just the year before, maybe the year before that, was when the first UFC came out. I think it came out in '93, right? 92, 93.
Oh,
UFC 1, something like that.
93-ish. I believe it's 93 was UFC 1.
Yeah, so my first exposure was in '94. I was still in high school though, so I didn't start. Of course, we all rolled around in the backyard and everything else. I mean, when you're in Arkansas, especially during those times, there was nothing. You would have to drive. I didn't know who Danny Dring was then. I know he was. I think he was already a blue belt by the time '94, '95 rolled around or something. And I may be completely wrong on that, but I didn't even know who he was until I met him at a grappling tournament like in '99 or something. And but back then it was there wasn't Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It was it was submission wrestling, submission grappling. Because the only influences that I had was what Jeet Kune Do provided, and that was their exposure. That was during the days of, let's see, who was some of the bigger grapplers way back then. You had Josh Burnett's coach.
Eric Paulson.
Eric Paulson, yeah, he was a big one. He was at that same seminar in '94.
Man, he is in like every Dan Inosanto video from the '90s.
Yeah.
That's why I've been loving watching the Greg Nelson stuff, man, is because of that. Man, you really are the sole purpose that I am down in that rabbit hole still. Because, man, I have done so much research over Jeet Kune Do. And I don't know if I told you this, but Roland, the guy, I'm training with him tonight, the orthopedic surgeon, dude, he's trained with the Fongs.
Francis Fong and all those guys. Yeah.
And what's the other one? Augusto.
Mm-hmm.
Or August.
I just know Francis.
He trained with both of them. So, but you know, just from the Wing Chun influence, I have 2 Wing Chun dummies now. I don't know if you knew that.
You know, I'm not trying to derail anything, but you know, there's been some chatter here and there, and people are posting about it on the internet about how Bruce Lee was just an actor and stuff like that. And man, I just want to say, you guys are completely ignorant. You're either doing that or you're trying to get a rise out of people, because it's not true to any degree. Because if you go back, you start talking to some of the guys that trained with him, like Guru Dan and Francis Fong and all those, that older generation that actually was around, they were like, no, we couldn't do anything to him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, particularly in the striking realm, and I'm not discrediting his grappling at all. For the time, I'm sure it was probably ahead of the curve. But for today's standards, it was probably it probably would have been lacking in comparison to what jiu-jitsu and grappling is right now.
Sure, absolutely.
But it's the linkage of getting from there to here. What do you think about this? Like, here's something that is kind of irrefutable, that's disturbing about Bruce Lee's legacy, is like, he died taking drugs at some lady's house in Hollywood. It wasn't in Hollywood, I believe. I mean, just like the situation surrounding his death is kind of strange, you know.
Well, that, and then, Brandon Lee died too. When Brandon Lee died, dude, I dropped to my knees sobbing, because he was a hero of mine. I was, everybody was looking to him to carry on the legacy of his dad. But if you go back and listen to several interviews with Brandon before his death and stuff, he talked about some of that stuff. Like, Brandon will be the first person to tell you he was an actor first and a martial artist second, to where his dad was a martial artist first and an actor second.
Do you buy into any of the conspiracy theories about Bruce Lee's death?
Oh yeah, dude. Stranger shit has happened. Yeah.
Like which one? Like Yakuza shit, or like what you think it's the mob type situation?
Oh, I mean, how I could completely see that. They wanted him to do one thing. They saw it as a window of opportunity for a powerful influence that they could control, and maybe he didn't want to be controlled, and ultimately it led to his death. It's because you're talking about a guy that, it's either one or two things. Yeah, he took some drugs, but did the drugs really kill him, or did he really have a brain aneurysm? But
yeah, just something totally
off the wall. But who knows? The one thing that I can say though is, Brandon Lee said this, but he is actually quoting somebody else when he said it, is the key to immortality is living a life worth remembering. And Bruce Lee absolutely done that.
Yeah.
He accomplished that. I try not to, I there for a time I was obsessed with, how did he die? How did he die? But then I was like, man, that's stupid. I need to be focusing on how he lived, because the one thing that Bruce did to where no other martial artist before him was, he bridged the gap between what was useful and what wasn't. And he really had an open-minded concept when it comes to martial arts. And that's why people are like, oh, he was just this. He was an actor. He was on the phone. Well, man, the one thing that he did do, he is one of the main reasons why we get to do what we want to do. Is like, if we want to do some Western boxing and then kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, he made all that cool and acceptable.
Yeah, the bridging it all together too, man. That was
he was the bridge. Nobody else before him was able to do that. You can talk about Judo Gene LaBelle and all these other guys, and they did that too, to some degree. But nobody had the influence to do it like Bruce did. And Bruce was the first person to be like, no, this is total crap. Let's change this. Let's do that. Let's add this. Let's take this away. And if one of the Gracies would have showed up in 1971 when Bruce was still alive and, trying to evolve martial arts, and they walked in there and they choked him unconscious, the first person he'd be standing in line to learn from was those guys. He wasn't,
Yeah.
It was, that's the one thing I got to appreciate about it. Because I think one of the Gracies actually said at one point in time, the UFC, the concept of the UFC happened because of, a Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah, and look how full circle it's come, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
They're about to have fights on a private island, like straight up Enter the Dragon style.
Enter the Dragon, man. I mean, come on, dude. Can you get any more Bruce Lee?
Oh, dude, that's gangster as shit, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I am too. I'm about it. I guess Ferguson's gonna fight Gagey.
Yeah. I was listening to Shab talk about this the other day. It was like, you know what? He's like, UFC still, as big as they are, they still operate cowboy style. Cowboys and Indians, like, okay, cool, we can't do this. We're going to find a way. And
I know, man. Oh, John Jones failed his drug test. He's still going to fight.
He's still going to fight. It's fine. I always like what Rogan talks about. It's like, dude, we just need to have a division to where it's just complete, just roid monsters. Let's just see how much freak we can put in the cage.
Yeah. I know, man. I mean, honestly, because the fact that they have provenly not been able to regulate it, I mean, it's like, it's not fair. Some people are getting popped for things that are accidental, like 100%. You can't take ibuprofen and shit. So it's
they're supplemental. The batch which the supplement or the drug was produced in was not, the tubs weren't completely cleaned.
Yeah. The vat.
That's real. They've proven that time and time again. That's a real thing with these supplement companies. And, some of these over-the-counter gas station pills that you can buy here and there, there's no telling what's in them.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a question for you.
What's up?
What do you think is easier or since you've done both just as long as I've done both, gi and no gi, do you think it's easier to go from training the gi all the time to no gi, or training the no gi all the time to gi? Because
over time, I've
changed my mind a couple of times on this. That's the reason why I'm asking.
Here's where I'm at. Only through training in the gi have I been able to integrate the two.
Correct. That's my standpoint now.
Yeah.
I think, no gi is obviously super popular nowadays, and the more popular jiu-jitsu is, the better I like it. I don't care if it's gi or no gi. But as far as a personal martial art journey for me, I know that I thought I knew what I was doing when I was just doing no gi all the time, and I had no clue, dude. Zero clue. And then until I started doing gi, and then really focusing on the gi, and then going back and doing some no gi, did I realize the different ones, the difference between the two, but just how much easier I felt it was for me going from gi to no gi than me trying to go from no gi to gi. Because obviously the gripping game and stuff is different. But when I had a conversation with Fei Zhao about this many years ago, and his take on it was really interesting, and I thought it was very well thought out. It's like when you're trying to operate a pass or a sweep or whatever in gi, let's just say a pass. If you're trying to operate a pass in gi and somebody can grip you at every single inch of your body, but you're still successful at performing that pass, which means your margins of error to be able to execute that are about that big. So when you take the gi off and they can't grip you anymore, you're still neurologically operating with a margin of error like this, but now you have a gigantic highway to drive through, and you just work your way through it, no problem. That's why I think it's an easier transition to go from gi to no gi versus no gi to gi as far as movement.
A lot of people that are no gi enthusiasts or started no gi, I feel like talk shit about training in the gi.
Oh yeah, because it's just a traditional modality of training. That's all that is. They want to buck tradition. The big thing is, that's why you see a lot of the Brazilian guys, they still demand respect on their floor and so on and so forth. That's a very traditional way of doing things. And, the big California East Coast way is just that whole, go with the flow. I'm cool. I'm going to do my own thing and create my own pathway, which is fine. It's, I mean, obviously a lot of the no-gi guys in the world have done an amazing job of doing that, really taking no-gi to the forefront. Well, with the Danaher Death Squad and all those guys. But the one thing that people don't realize is there's a lot of respect there. There's a lot of traditional, yes, sir, no, sir kind of things, listening to what you're being taught, so on and so forth. This isn't just, hey, look what I come up with, and I'm now successful with it. No, it takes more than just you to become successful with a technique.
Yeah, I agree.
But you're right. I think they
Is that me?
You still there, bro?
Yeah.
What happened? Hang on. I lost you. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that.
No, you're good, dude.
The crazy thing is I think you're right. A lot of the no-gi guys like to talk shit about training in the gi, but I feel it's super important. I feel movement-wise, it's a very – now, here's the difference. Now, to be able to pull off a lot of the leg lock game and the no-gi game and to be able to execute it correctly, you have to have those margins of no-gi. Like with ankle locks, you don't have the pants there. The leg entanglement there, it's a lot more slick. There's more turning and moving, so your tolerances have to be tighter on that end of things.
I hate too how, and I mean, you and I have talked about this, but how stereotypically most jiu-jitsu guys don't train leg locks in the gi at all. I started training leg locks in the gi a couple years ago, and only could I ever notice what you just said by doing both. So I just train all submissions, gi and no gi. That's another change I made.
The only reason why I don't do that is not that I agree or disagree with that. I've seen too many people get hurt with heel hooks playing with it in the gi. Now, and the only reason why I play all leg locks with my guys that are of the belt level, if I, like when Jason Ryan, for example, he's purple belt at the time, we'd roll all the time. Yeah, we're going to play all, knee bars and everything else. Okay. But not everybody is exposed to that, whether that's good or bad. But the thing that I don't do is heel hooks in the gi. And the only reason why is this is because of the leg entanglement. The gi pants material grip the leg and the knee harder. And so when you put that torque on the heel hook, let's say you're not even really going after it, you're just like, catch and release, whatever. When you go and do that, let's say I've been playing heel hooks in no-gi a lot, the tolerance is further. And so with the gi on, because the material tightens it down, because like the analogy that I use to some of the guys that try to argue with me, I was like, dude, it's fine if you want to do this. The one thing that it's like, if you grab a jar of pickles out of the refrigerator and try to open the lid and you can't open it with your bare hands, what do? You put a rag on it, then you can open it. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with when you have gi pants on and you're doing knee bar or doing heel hooks.
No, I've never heard it explained that way, dude. That makes some sense, actually.
And that's the only reason why I don't play with them is because of the gi material. It literally between my gi pants and your gi pants, it tightens up and takes up so much of that space that if I'm used to taking the heel hook, 10 degree, whatever degree of torque you put on it, even playing catch and release, it's going to have to be less with gi pants because the space has been taken up and the tightness is already there. So the knee is already bound, That's my only argument with that. People all the time, well, you don't do heel hooks. Well, no, I don't. And it's not because IBJJF doesn't have them, whether it's legal or illegal. That has nothing to do with it. I literally am like, the tolerance is smaller as far as margin of error. That's the only reason why.
Did you just gain that off of your observations or?
Yeah, I gained that after my observations and just feeling somebody putting me in a heel hook when I had gi pants on versus not having it. And I don't like the pressure because if you think about it like this, if you're looking at the leg as a cylinder, as soon as that pant starts to twist at all, what happens to the whole knee bend If you take your pants from ankle to hip, twist just the pants, your knees, your legs still straight. Try to bend, try to touch your heel to your butt. Can't. Okay. If the pant is completely loose, touch your heel to the butt. You completely can. So that's my only observation is because of the cloth material, it becomes a little bit more of a danger on the knee, not necessarily the ankle at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never really heard it explained that way. Which
that's just my thought. I've never heard anybody talk about it like that, but it's just something that I believe in a little bit. Now like me and Jason Ryan, we've played knee bar or heel hooks and stuff in gi before, and I trust him. I know he's not going to try to rip my stuff off and things like that. But it's one of those things that with heel hooks, I would really have to trust the guy in the gi. Now, if we're doing no gi, let's go for it.
Yeah. For me, it kind of all goes down to that is like trust and education of who you're going with. And why, and that is one of the reasons why I started like indoctrinating everyone in the heel hook.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think knee bars and everything else, that has gi or no gi, that to me, that's all the same. There's no, the material of the pant or anything doesn't change. Probably maybe knee bar a little bit with the rolling escape and trying to clear the knee line a little bit. That's a little bit more difficult when you have the gi on because of the friction of the gi pants. But everything else, toe holds, knee bars, Estima locks, all of that stuff's the same.
Yeah. Man, I got a slick new calf crusher that I discovered the other day when I was training with McMillan that I'll have to – it's when somebody's got you in the honey hole.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a super interesting counter to when somebody's trying to inside heel hook you.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I can't wait to play with that. Also the other – I've had my black belt 2 years now. And I finally discovered a way that I can hold pistol grip well, just like a week ago.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. It's completely
from what position, like playing guard or what?
Any position. So like, look, pistol grip, right? We're sitting here like this. And it's, you're a lot of times, in my opinion, the pinky gets compromised. It's the one that gets stretched first, right? So the other day I found myself, I was kind of right here, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. And I tucked my pinky behind the gi. And now when I grip it, if you can see that, when I push my pinky forward,
oh, interesting.
It puts the gi into an S. So now it holds like, how when you're rappelling and you're in a carabiner and the rope runs through that S and it has more of a grip than the rope running straight through the hole. So when you're there, I just tuck my pinky behind it and then I squeeze down and I push forward with my pinky. And man, I was playing it with Big John and stuff today. It definitely makes a difference. Now, maybe because I have a shitty grip. I don't know.
Well, I played the pistol grip just a little bit, but for the most part, I do hook grips.
Oh, me too. I'm monkey grip all day long. It's hook grip all day long. And I've even modified that now to where I no longer move my hand from this position right here. I don't close my hand down. I play hook grip just like this.
Yeah.
Because I don't blow
a long hand.
Yeah, I don't blow my forearms out because if you close that down, your forearm flexes. And if it's like that, it's still, it's
took me a long time to learn that, man.
Me too, dude. Me too. I was just, there's a little bit of callousing. You have to callus the strength and everything to where that becomes comfortable. But
well, man. So one thing I wanted to chat with you about was just like your approach to, we talked about supplementation a little bit earlier, but just like to a healthier lifestyle. Like you have gotten much healthier as I've known you.
Better looking.
Yes, yeah, much better looking, aged very well. But I mean, honestly, like when you turned 40, it was like you were it wasn't like you had gotten older. It was like you had gotten younger. I remember distinctly thinking that you looked different. Like, I mean, you just seem to be enjoying life a lot lately, but I know that like it's been like a long 10-year sort of process of like you changing a lot of different things to kind of reclaim, a healthy lifestyle. Like what would you say about that process?
The catalyst, unfortunately, for a big portion of that was when my mom passed away. She passed away at 58. It was a big wake up call for me. I was still probably floating around 260 pounds then. And I had
what's the most you ever weighed?
Right at 300.
Yeah. Right, and what's the lowest you've competed at?
Lowest when I did Worlds in 2017, I wasn't depriving myself of anything, and I stepped on the scale. I was probably, with my gi and everything on, I think I was 220. So I was walking around 216. So that wasn't no big deal. Right now I'm 228, 229, something like that. Nice. I'm not, I'm a little heavier right this second. I'm not in the greatest shape, but I'm not in bad shape either. My body tends to float in that anywhere from 237 to 227 range. And then when I'm really watching everything that I do, I tend to hum around 222, 221, somewhere in there. Biggest catalyst for that was when my mom passed away. I've been playing with trying to get in better shape and so on and so forth. The biggest secret is, man, you can work out as much as you want. The thing that makes the difference in the world is eating, nutrition to any fashion or form. When I'd lost originally like 40 pounds by just increasing my workouts. One thing, okay, so here's an example. At one point in time, I read a study or looked at a study of what happens when you drink carbonated soda all the time and how bad it is on your body. It really destroys your gut biome and so on and so forth. And so I was like, oh, I'm just going to quit drinking soda. And dude, I lost like 15 pounds doing that. And when I lost 15 pounds and it, cause I'm talking about being 300 pounds, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm 180, I'm 285 now. So, all right. And then we just added to that and added to that and added to that. A big break for me was when keto became super popular there for just a little bit. That's what helped me drop from 252 to like 228, that was a big thing to get me over that hurdle. The thing that I do now that I think makes me feel the best, I move the best. I'll be 44 here this week, but I still feel like physically I'm fairly fast for somebody that's over 225 pounds. I don't feel like I'm the strongest guy by any means, but I'm strong enough. And the thing that I do as far as my jiu-jitsu is I'm fairly fast and mobile. I kind of play a small man's game a little bit instead of necessarily a big guy's game. But to have those energy expenditures to be able to move and explode and so on and so forth, you have to feel good. And to feel good for me is intermittent fasting is just really, really been solid for me. You can intermittent fast dirty, which basically is like, your eating window is only 7 hours or whatever, but you eat whatever the hell you want calorically, or you can intermittent fast clean. And I can tell you from doing both, intermittent fasting clean, you feel better than you do intermittent fasting dirty.
Yeah.
Because like in the bodybuilding world, you can bulk dirty or you can bulk clean, and you're going to look better, feel better, and perform better if you're bulking clean versus sitting around eating an entire package of Oreos every meal and so on and so forth. Same way with jiu-jitsu, same way with any type of getting better with health. Some of it is stripping your ego away too, man. When it comes to eating, you really have to be like, man, I feel like shit. Why do I feel like shit?
Yeah, for real.
if you're using MyFitnessPal and writing down what you're eating, if you'll go back and look, you're like, oh, here's the reason why. If you really get, strip your ego away, get scientific about the data, it tends to make a difference. That's one of the same things that I do at jiu-jitsu. Strip your ego away. Why isn't this working? Well, maybe it's not meant to work. You're not doing it right. Find the reasons why. If that's not working, take that out. Do something different. Same way with eating.
Yeah, for sure.
I know another thing, you have a very good support system at home. I have a very good support system at home. That's big when it comes to feeling good, both mentally, physically, spiritually, all of those things. You have to have a support system to do it. You can't do things like that without having, support behind you. It's no different than, you hear stories all the time about, this couple or these brothers or whatever, one person smokes, one wants to quit smoking, but until both of them do it, you're not going to be successful. It's the same thing with eating, exercising, anything else. You got to have a good support system to be able to be successful.
That is so true, man. Encouragement, support, reminders, because it's not easy. I mean, that's been with me coming up with a bunch of new routines and getting up earlier, exercising in the mornings before I go to work. Because, man, I'm busy and it's so easy to just not do things that you should be doing and to go through a drive-through or to eat conveniently instead of healthy.
Yeah, it's absolutely easy, dude. That's the thing is it's planning too, planning. Look, part of your planning is stripping the ego out. I can tell you one thing, like, I don't know about you guys, but I've been killing these quarantine meals, bro. I mean, I'm talking just fabulous food. And, Allie was talking the other day. She's like, being quarantined is not bad at all. I'm stuck here with my best friend and we're making amazing food and we're
I mean, Cora's really not having a horrible time either. And I'm not either. It's nice, man. I mean, like, look at what we're doing, dude. True. Talking to, like, you're on the podcast for the first time.
Yeah, that's right on the pod. But it's something that I've been meaning to do for a while and just haven't been able to do it.
This is it, man. Now we can do this anytime. Like, this was and I've got a couple of things I'm working on to where, like, I'm probably going to be doing a lot more of this kind of podcast to get outside of the region. Because there's a lot of historians and jiu-jitsu guys and girls and just a whole bunch of people I could podcast with, but I'll probably never get them to sit down in the studio with me in Russellville, Arkansas.
Oh, no, that's real difficult. That's real difficult. But the format's a little different now, thank God.
Yeah. So, well, in the new studio, I'm kind of set up with doing a lot more of this in mind. So any other question you want to touch on? Well, dude, I would just say this, like, and maybe you can't even give insight into it. It's always weird when people ask you questions about, I was talking to somebody about this, like when somebody's like, hey, you did all this, how'd you do that? It's kind of weird to answer questions like that but like you just, in your jiu-jitsu have a very creative approach. Like you have coached world champions. You have kind of innovated this idea of a drill chart. You were a coach first, and then you became a successful competitor. And like, I mean, man, like, what is behind all that? Like, how are you able? What is behind? Like, what makes you so creative? Like, what makes this work for you?
So, creative. Some of creative comes out of being passionate about something, really wanting to explore and go down the road with something. Well, so when you're passionate, you have to care, So I feel like a part of my creativeness comes because I'm excited about something. It's like, oh, I see this. But also being creative comes out of necessity. We talked about this before. In Arkansas, a lot of times, unfortunately for me, I've not been able to be on the floor with a high level black belt all the time. I've got people that have been come through my doors, and I've had different influences here and there, but I've never been able to sit there day to day and train underneath a coach that says, no, Mike, put your hand here, not there. That's just not been my reality, right? So some of my necessity is, I'm going to have to do through trial and error, figure out what works and what doesn't, and become creative in ways to make it work for me, ask creative questions, so on and so forth. But some of that, I got to thinking about this, and a big part of that is stripping the ego away again. It's like, I'm not so prideful to say, oh, my arm bar is the best arm bar. Let me show you how. It's like, dude, if you got a better arm bar, oh, that's cool, man. Show me that, bro. I think
I'm the same way, man. I mean, and it like you were saying earlier, you got to kind of put the ego away on some of that. But that's been one thing. The longer I've been with it, the more I'm like, well, show me your way.
Yeah. The one thing that I've learned over paying attention to what's happening in the jiu-jitsu world, I think I've been blessed in the fact that, I mean, me and you've sat down many times and exchanged jiu-jitsu resources before it was popular to exchange jiu-jitsu resources. Watching rolled up videos, whatever we could find.
You told me about rolled up, bro.
Yeah. And if you think about rolled up, it had nothing to do with technique. It was the philosophy of learning.
Yeah. And the culture too.
Yeah. The culture.
Like you turned me on to jiu-jitsu culture. Like I remarked several times to people over the years about like choke being like a turning point for me in my mind. But it was really because it was like the first time I went to Worlds too. It's like I realized both times in those instances that I was a part of a bigger thing than myself, than my gym, than Arkansas. It was a much larger idea at work. And until you stand in the pyramid and we're like seeing all those people, or until I saw what Hickson Gracie was doing in the 90s and then was like, oh, I'm doing this now. Imagine what it's evolved to. And
correct.
It's fascinating.
The one thing that I can say about jiu-jitsu, it's constantly evolving. It's 2020. People's been watching YouTube videos on jiu-jitsu for as long as I can remember now, and it's still not stopped evolving. That's the cool thing. So saying that, when it came to jiu-jitsu and being creative and everything else, that's the one thing that I've figured out in life. I used to be into this thing and that thing, racing, building cars, whatever it is. A lot of that came down to you were only as good as how big your pocketbook was. And with jiu-jitsu, it's one of the few things, I don't care. You can be a billionaire and you're not going to be successful at jiu-jitsu without putting in work. And not only just putting in work, having to think about what you're doing, structure, plan, so on and so forth. I mean, some people talk about it. It's the equivalent of getting your doctorate as far as the time that you have to put in. And I believe that,
it is very much so the PhD of the martial arts.
For sure. Absolutely. But it was one of those things that, as a person that grew up a lot of his life with not a bunch of money or anything like that, it was something that was attainable through hard work and achievement. I'm like, oh, I can attain that. I just have to, you not chase it blindly, because as well as I do that doesn't work either. You have to step back and, and that's where the creative side come up. It's like, oh, this is not working. I'm getting my ass handed to me. What can I do different? For me, that my creative side of things was a necessity, because I didn't have a coach at hand to be like, the all-seeing, all-knowing master on the hill is like, oh, hey, what am I doing wrong? Oh, this. Okay, thank you. I had to learn the answers instead of being given the answers. And the way you do that is being a little creative. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, with what we've done, me and you, it's always been a collective education. You learn something, I learn something, we share, and so on and so forth. And that's been a blessing. I would not change my path to where I'm at all, with Dring or any of that. I've not got to spend that much time with him. That doesn't mean anything. He's always given me sound advice when it comes to jiu-jitsu over the years, and I'm super appreciative of it. Caleb and everything else, I've had a good friend and business partner right there beside, it's like, hey, this isn't working. And we've always had that real honest relationship when it comes to jiu-jitsu. It's like, dude, it's not working because of this, maybe. It's like, oh, shit, I don't know. So, that becomes where the creative side of it, and that's how that drill chart was born. That drill chart was born because I kind of heard, if you started going back to research in jiu-jitsu, watching people compete, I wanted my guys to get better at competing because they were passionate about it. I wanted to be able to be a coach for them to do that. Well, I had to look into the world and see what was working. Bernardo Faria was doing this, and Andre Galvao was doing that, and you just go down the list, Lucas Leite, whatever, they were doing these. But if you got to really looking at their game, they were only doing about 10 things.
We talked about that the other day with Hodger Gracie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, me and you talked about it with Hodger. They're really only doing 10 things. I mean, Hodger made it a point that one year to full mount everybody and cross choke them. Whether it was in his division or the open division, he didn't care. He cross-choked everybody from full mount, no other position, passed up submissions, because that was a goal of his, and he attained it. Nobody could stop him doing it. Everybody knew it was coming. It still happened. Just like when, Rafael Lovato Jr. gets in full mount, do you think that you're not going to get cross-choked?
Dude, we were there. You remember that?
We watched it. We were in there. I remember being at Worlds and watching Bernardo Faria little hand somebody from side control, and I think it was either you sitting beside me or something, and I'm like, he's fixing to step over to full mount triangle, because that's what he does. If he little hands your far hand, he's going to step over that head and he's going to full mount triangle and choke you unconscious. Why is that? Because on the competitive side of things, and especially with that competitive drill chart, you have to do something 1,000 times before it becomes you start developing the neural pathways of it becoming an automatic response to a situation. Once something becomes an automatic response, you shorten the response window down. Okay, he passes my guard, I do this because I've done this 1,000 times. Not he passes my guard, I'm going to stop and think, all right, I know this regard technique, I know that, I need to place my hand. It's already too late. When you're competing, the windows of opportunity are so small that you have to be able to react. And everybody talks about reactionary jiu-jitsu versus thinking jiu-jitsu. Well, if you plan out reactionary jiu-jitsu, then it is thought out jiu-jitsu. But if you're just flopping around and trying to create the scramble and so on and so forth, that's truly reactionary. But, well, how do you create the plan? Well, you have to have some type of written structure. So that's where that drill chart came down towards A's and B's. You have an answer, a 1 and a 2 from each situation. And if you drill that 100 times, I promise you, one thing's going to happen. That's going to become your automated response. Maybe that's not your best answer, though, but that's the only answer you got at the time. And when you learn something better, like let's take closed guard, for example. For me, it's a pendulum sweep and it's a scissor sweep. That's my 1 and 2 sweep. I do not do the UPA very well. I've never done the UPA very well. My body doesn't like it. Get my fat butt off the floor. I don't know what it is. But I do the pendulum sweep very well, and I do a couple other sweeps very well.
Those are the 2 sweeps I worked on with Jack the other day, pendulum and scissor.
Yeah. So, but let's say over time, all of a sudden, my ability, my hip movement and stuff changes to where the UPA from closed guard is a better sweep. So I will replace one of the 2. So, and it really started simplifying and to bring all this back is when you look at competing at the highest level, these guys do a certain thing and they have a plan to do it. And the reason why they have a plan to do it is because they've drilled it. And if you write it out on paper, because to me, it's not just a competition drill chart. I think that you need to write out flow charts. Flow charts are important. I think flow charts are one of those things when you're in a scramble, and if you've drilled a flow chart a lot, you have a lot of anchor points within your game that you can get back to, and now you know what direction to go. Same way with drill charts. The guy passes your guard. If you've drilled what's fixing to happen next, you know what to do. It became, it was kind of a stupid, simple way of structuring what needed to go on. And then, as well as I do, a lot of times you come to practice and if it's just competitors, it's like, oh, let's do this and roll, right? But if you have a drill chart, then you have a structured way of what practice needs to be like. But also with the drill chart, I learned something else as far as a coach and coaching people that competed at a high level is, yeah, me and you, we do a scissor and a pendulum very well. But maybe this guy over here, he does this and this very well. Well, why should I make him conform to what I do very well? As a coach with higher level competitors, you have to take what they do and make that better. If they have a good far side armbar from side control, you need to make that good armbar the most amazing, unstoppable armbar ever. The way you do that is you strip your ego away. You make them better as a competitor by really paying attention to the detail and trying to fix it, and then trial and error, then trying to fix it, then trial and error, and then trying to fix it. I can remember we all went as a team and competed one year, and that was the year that De La Riva was big into the Berimbolo back take. We didn't have because at that time, all of Berimbolo started from the De La Riva guard. We didn't have an answer for stopping the De La Riva. How do we stop it? How do we pass? So when we came back from Worlds or Pans that year, whichever one it was, all we drilled was how to stop it. And everybody's body type's a little different. They had to drill a couple of different things. But, it's taking that non-egotistical approach to competitors as a coach and so on and so forth, because I don't know a coach out there as far as jiu-jitsu goes that's like, this is my way of doing it, and you will all do it this way and be successful at it. That's not true. As a coach, you have to strip your ego away and really look at, everybody should have I feel like Inferno, as far as like my guys that I teach, they all have a good fundamental foundation of half guard, because I'm kind of a half guard guy. But everybody's a little different. So then I have to take that student and they have a good fundamental of this, but I have to take what they do and make it better.
Dude, training a half guard with you is like one of my earliest memories.
Yeah, no kidding. We were like, cool, look at this. Hey,
one of my most viewed videos on our YouTube is the P-lock pass, son.
It's real, dude. That P-lock still works still today.
It does, man. I use it.
The more people try and lock you down with the lockdown from half guard on bottom, if you get in a habit of P-locking, the more it's
that kind of 10th planet, we've been doing the 10th planet warm-ups, and a lot of what you're saying is just because those are chained drills, and but there's one of them on the E series. There's a lot of quarter and half guard on their E series, and on one of them you do like an electric chair, but you do that cradle style pass coming off of that lockdown. And man, I just love that pathway.
Yeah, same. I was just actually talking to one of my guys. He's in quarantine. We were talking about the other day. He's a big lockdown electric chair guy. And I was giving him crap because I was like, I can't wait to get you back in the gym so I can figure out how to pass your electric chair.
Man, I did pick up a new little detail on finishing people with the electric chair as a submission.
Yeah, he's real good at that, dude. I don't like it. Luckily for a big guy, I'm kind of flexible. So it doesn't bother me as bad, but I definitely don't like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Well, right on, bro. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up, man. I really appreciate you sitting down with me. For everybody that doesn't know, you came up with the idea for the name of the podcast and my gym both.
I tend to be an idea guy sometimes.
Yeah, and we were both in each other's weddings. So
that's true.
A little bit about I don't think that for people that don't know you, I don't think I did a formal introduction at the beginning. But, man, thanks so much. I'm so glad I got to finally do a podcast with you, bro.
Yeah, brother, man. We will we'll hash out a couple of more questions later on down the road. We'll do it again.
For sure. This won't be the first. First of many.
Exactly.
All right, man. I'll see you, bro. Have a good day.
You too.